All right. To start it out, just say your name and the company that you want to be represented by. We just use that for reference for the producers and stuff.
Hey, my name is John Ellis with Dynamic Air Consulting. Glad to
There we
be
go.
here.
Perfect. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the HVAC ADHD Vodcast. I've got John Ellis here from Dynamic Comfort Consulting. And John's a pretty well-known guy in our industry. Him and I were just at the National Comfort Institute conference this past week. So I'm sure we'll have a couple little pointers to talk about from there. But for the most part, John is the overarching IAQ expert in our industry. So much of our conversation today, as I'm sure much of John's conversations do, is going to revolve around IAQ. Welcome, John. Thank you for coming.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you having me here, and it's a pleasure to be here. And always like to talk all things HVAC and IAQ. And hey, for context, HVAC, building science, and IAQ, indoor air quality, are inseparable. And I like to think that they are the trifecta of us building and maintaining better environments.
Absolutely. I always say this, when I came into the industry, the big conversation in the home performance world was efficiency, right? That's what everybody wanted to talk about. And they wanted to talk about payback and all this other stuff. But the real conversation, I think, is the comfort, health, and safety, and then the efficiency. Those are all synergistic things. But if we give them the comfort and the health, then the efficiencies should come along with that if they're doing it the right way. That's the way I've always looked at it.
Yeah, and you know what? To your point, Jeremy, I when I go on a consult, right, and whether it's a comfort or it's indoor air quality, I have some cards, and they say safety, health, comfort, and efficiency. And on the back of the cards is a little description of what each of those categories are. And I give them to my customer during our conversation. I said, hey, you know what? Can you have a look at these cards and can you place them down in the order that is most important to you and your family, so I can make your priority my priority and furthering the conversation. And almost always, like 95% of the time, they go down safety, health, comfort, and efficiency. Sometimes health and safety will be switched, especially if I'm doing an IAQ consult.
Sure.
But you know what? Our industry is so hyper focused on efficiency. And yes, we need to be good stewards of our resources, and efficiency is important. But if that's not the main focus of your client and you go in talking efficiency, 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 you've lost them right out of the gate. So I like to get that out first. That way I can tailor my conversation and my focus to what the customer really wants.
How often do you see where you go in to fix a IAQ problem and you end up solving some comfort issues that the customer was less worried about, but it gets solved as a default of what you're doing to fix their IAQ in their home?
100% of the time. Yeah. And I have 6 key principles, or I like to say called like foundational principles, that I like to focus on first as we're going in and doing a consult, if you will. And that would be thermal comfort. We are in the comfort business, are we not? We sell comfort every day in the HVAC world of things. But what a lot of HVAC contractors and the likes don't understand, that anybody who is compromised, thermal comfort can have a whole different meaning than just, hey, I want to feel good in my house. And really, and it's interesting too, people who are compromised can feel pressure differences within their home as well. So thermal comfort, and then humidity control, either too much or the lack thereof, right? So we need to control humidity. And then ventilation, let's put the V back in HVAC, right? Ventilation is a very important strategy in both comfort and IAQ. Dilution can be the solution for some pollutions, right? And then as we move down the line, I'd like to look at filtration. Every piece of equipment that we look at should have some kind of filtration attached to it. And then after filtration, I like to look at building pressures. And that is huge as we do pressure mapping and moisture mapping and temperature mapping in through the house. Temperature and pressure are directly related. And we look at infiltration. We want to keep inside in and outside out. So as we're looking at pressures and infiltration rates, when we're doing load calculations in our business, one of the best numbers that we can plug in would be our infiltration rates. And the only way to do that would be to deploy a blower door and be able to get that number. And then last in that would be pollutant identification and source control. We can't fix what we don't know about. If there's pollutants in the space that are causing problems for our clients and we don't know what those pollutants are, we can't go after them. So if we can identify the pollutant, then hey, we got a pretty good idea where those pollutants may be coming from, whether it's things that we bring into the built space, if it's something that's behavioral, which is always the wild card, of course, and then is it something from outside coming in by way of infiltration? So those are my 6 key principles. We should be using those in our everyday, day-to-day business in HVAC. And if we can get a handle on that, then we can start talking about other things outside of the realm of those 6 key principles. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you train contractors, right? That's your main bread and butter. Or what is? Tell us a little bit about your business model, your personal business model, how you make your money.
Well, sure. So I've had the privilege of teaching indoor air quality for Daikin Amana Goodman for the last 6 years. They approached me and wanted to create a curriculum. And when they did, I said, hey, I am absolutely your guy, but I will not stand in front of a group of people or a classroom and sell products because that's what everybody else does. Products come later.
Yeah.
So I said it needs to be the nuts and bolts and science behind IAQ. And it's based on some simple principles: building science, building forensics, and indoor air quality from a mechanical point of view. I built this curriculum for the HVAC industry. It's 2 days, 16 hours, very foundational. There are some topics that I would like to take a deeper dive. I could spend a whole day on psychometrics. We could spend 2 or 3 days on building science. We can spend 2 or 3 days on the indoor environmental and the discovery process of that, identifying pathogens, bacteria, germs, pollens, pollutants. But it's very foundational and it's been well received. And I've had contractors in the field all over the United States taking the foundation that I've given them and are running with it and doing a fantastic job. One of the other things that I get to do in the past was a business coach and a field service trainer for a company called the New Flat Rate. Now that is menu pricing, not traditional flat rate, but menu pricing. I had the pleasure with the founder, Rodney Coop, at developing the very first and only building science and indoor air quality menu pricing module within the New Flat Rate that takes all the stuff that we're talking about and being able to help contractors put pricing to that, have a way to present that to a client in a menu format, and then get paid for every step of the way. Early on in my career, I gave all my testing away. One, I was
A lot of people
excited. It's
do.
like, whoa, I've got all this new knowledge. I want to put it to use, right?
Yep.
And then it was like, well, you know what? Well, I'll make up for it on the back end. And I had a high closing rate because there wasn't a whole lot of contractors doing what I did at the level I did it. So I had a very high closing rate, but not everybody's as fortunate as that. And so you never really make it up on the back end. And so then this gives the contractors an opportunity to get paid every step of the way through discovery, through creating a scope of work, and then implementing that scope of work. So that's been very, very rewarding.
So
And
is flat rate like an ERP? Just for people that don't know, is it like Service Titan or something like that, or what is it? What is flat rate exactly?
Okay, so thank you for asking. So
Yes.
traditional flat rate has been good, better, best. I mean, that's kind of the format that our industry and all the
Yep.
skilled trades have used. Most of the time when you do a good, better, best, you still have to go into your CRM and pull those options down and build it on site. Kind of a bespoke approach. And for those of you that don't know what bespoke means, it's a custom. And so a custom thing, but so there's still that time to search for the options that you want to put into a bundle or a good, better, best, and then hope that the pricing works out and then present it. So what we've done is we've gotten rid of that. So human nature, throw out the top, throw out the bottom, and we kind of find ourselves in the middle. A lot of people historically have been like middle shoppers, where we're prideful and say, hey, we deserve better than the bottom, but then we're also logical. I can't afford the top. But if you only have three options, throw out the top and the bottom, that only leaves you with one option. That's still not a choice. You kind of left with that. Our industry has been a take it or leave it kind of industry for the longest time. You go in, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, you've got a problem. This is what it costs, take it or leave it. And you push them into a corner, they feel like they don't have a choice. That leaves a bad taste in their mouth, buyer's remorse. Kind of doesn't feel good when you're pushed into a corner and not given with a choice. Millions of dollars are exchanged hands every day in the food service industry, right? You go to a restaurant, you're greeted with a smile. You're brought to your table, you're sat down, and what's the first thing they do? They give you a menu, right? And then they leave you alone for a minute to look at the menu. At no time does that food service person come back and try to hard sell me on anything. Now, they might say, hey, we got some specials today, or they might give you a little push on the desserts, and that's always where I go. But a waiter or a waitress in food service is not a salesperson. Here's our menu. Here's what we have to offer. What should we do? And so each repair, we've got thousands of repairs in electrical, plumbing, HVAC service, chimney service and repair, and my personal favorite, which is the building science and IAQ. You diagnose the problem, you follow a process, you get in front of the customer. Hey, you know what? I found a fault I'm a little concerned. Here's what we got. What should we do? And you hand them a menu. Our analytics show that 80% of all clients, if only given an option or a choice, will choose something above the basic repair. But hey, thank goodness we have a basic repair, because if that's all they can afford, that is fine. Yeah. So in HVAC sales, and I know this is not a sales thing, and we'll get past this.
No, I love it. This is HVAC ADHD, so this is all of it, and sales is a big part of it. So this part, I'm actually super curious about how this actually works. Like, is it a software that you guys, or is a plugin for the ERP, or how does somebody actually use FlatRate? Like, where do they go to get it and all that stuff?
It is a standalone, and it's app-based, so your tablet.
App-based.
We are fully integrated with Service Titan and House Call Pro. And so once we go through the whole process within the new FlatRate app, one touch of a button, it all jumps over into Service Titan or House Call Pro. Within other field service CRMs, we have a copy and paste feature, one touch of the button, copy it. And some of it, we have like a digital handshake, not a full integration, and it works really, really well. And so that's the premise. And if only given the option, and here's an analogy I like to make. If you're going to go around town and you're going to diagnose problems, and let's just use a capacitor for instance, and if you're going to sell a capacitor for $350, whatever that may be for your marketplace, that's fine. I call that a cheeseburger. So if you're going to run around town slinging cheeseburgers all day long, every day, all day, today, tomorrow, next month, next year, that's fine if it fits your business model, and if you know your numbers and you have your profit and revenue built into that, well, that's fine. But you know what? If you don't have the lobster filet mignon on your menu, how many are you going to sell?
Yeah.
0.
If you don't ask, you never get to sell. I mean, that's with everything. Yeah.
0. And so our philosophy is built on honesty, integrity, common sense, right?
Yep.
You never do any less, right? Do what you say what you're going to do, right? And then each option as we go up, there's 5, will be the basic plus. Then it'll be plus. And then when we get to the top, it's all the bells and whistles. Everything is there. I mean, if they choose our platinum option, right? And I get pushback all the time. It's like, oh, John, how can you sell a capacitor for $1,300? It's like, I'm not selling a capacitor for $1,300. I am selling a platinum service that includes a capacitor.
Yeah.
And you know what? If the mag contactor's out, it's going to include that. I'm going to do electrical wire termination restoration. I'm going to go ahead and clean that condensing coil. I'm going to bring that thing back to as best as I can with the time that I'm allotted. So if you were to unpack that, right, and you say, okay, if we did one unitary service, or we only did the capacitor and we came and did that and left, and then we came back and did the mag contactor and left, and we came and cleaned the condensing coil and left, that all added up would be a lot more than just choosing that platinum option and doing it all, because I'm already there. So in sales in general, so we all know in our industry the value of what we do. I mean, our industry has also been commodity driven. All you need is this, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. All you need is this, and your problems will be solved. Well, if all I need is this, what don't I need? I don't need you, because I can get this on Amazon, and I could go to YouTube University and learn how to put it in. So we need to take our focus off of this. My knowledge, expertise, and experience is what allows me to bring this to life safely, right? And being able to diagnose. That's where the value is. And we have a paradigm shift and be not commodity driven, because I can get a capacitor anywhere. I could probably walk into Home Depot and get a capacitor, right? So we need to have that kind of paradigm shift, if you will.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I love that you give somebody an easy way to offer the advanced options and put it in a format that is understandable to the customer so that they can easily make a choice whether they want it or not. That's a big deal. So I appreciate you giving the explanation of how that works. I think there needs to be more of that. Do you know what the cost add-on is to Service Titan or something like that?
So first and foremost, we are not a pricing company. We are a software and process development company.
Right.
And so the onboarding, we need to work with each customer.
Got it.
You know, most HVAC contractors and skilled service don't even know how much it costs them to put a truck in the driveway for the first hour, because the first hour is the most expensive hour.
Yeah.
They don't even know that. And it's like, well, let's start there. They don't know what their billable hour is. They don't know the difference between profit and revenue, because they are not the same. And having just some simple KPIs in place to track your numbers, just a couple to get started. Let's get started with let's watch this. And then how much do they need per truck per day? And then maximizing each call. And fluid dispatching is also a big deal. Don't give a technician their full schedule because little Johnny's got a softball game, or, I want to watch Monday Night Football. So they're like, okay, well, I'm going to try to rush through these one call at a time. Let them focus on that call. And I like a concept too. Put the man on the money. If you've got a guy that's really good on working on mini splits, put him on the mini split call. Right?
Seems obvious, right? Aces and places. I mean, that's really like how you should run it, but it doesn't always go like that. You're right. And that's usually a logistics issue. The point you're making about not knowing their money, like I do a lot of working with contractors to try to help them integrate home performance and other things into their systems. And we always run into that. Like they don't know where the money's coming from. They don't know their KPIs. And so it's a big deal. I actually have a blog article coming out that's talking about stacking KPIs, where you start with your basic, exactly what you're talking about, your basic business KPIs on the HVAC side before we ever even move into the home performance KPIs, because you can't stack those on top of the business ones until you know where the business ones land. You're never going to know how to price home performance properly if you don't know how you're pricing the rest of your HVAC stuff. So I love that you made that point, because it's we see it a lot, in these shops.
So once we work with the customer and kind of get all the business part, the money part taken care of, then we go ahead and we start with the basic option. So just a basic repair. How much do you need to make on that basic repair to be profitable? And then we have an algorithm that works the rest of the pricing out as it goes up. And then the contractor always has the option of going into their dashboard and adjusting things as they go. And so,
So you use their actual cost, like you get them to bring all their costs to the table and you actually work with the business owner to figure out where their real margins are before you implement the software.
sure, we can break it down by call. We can break it down by truck per day, per week, per month. I mean, the numbers just extrapolate out.
Yeah.
But let's just keep it real simple. Let's look at the tree before we look at the forest, and the rest will take care of itself. And so
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
been very rewarding. And I go all over the United States, and I work with companies. I put on a uniform, and let's go run service calls. And it's real funny. I've never been a plumber. I've never been an electrician in my life. But in HVAC, we got to know quite a bit about a lot of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had my best successes riding with plumbers and my best numbers. And I'll go out and I'll say, okay, hey, you know what? I got this call. Let me run this call. And of course, they'll do the work, but I'll run the call. And I've had some of my best numbers come out of working with plumbers in the field. It even amazes me. And then more recently, maintenance agreements have been kind of my jam because, man, we're in trouble as an industry when it comes to maintenance because we like to give them away. And I like to help contractors understand there is the value of what we do, and we kind of touched on that, our knowledge, expertise, experience, but then there's perceived value in the customer's eyes. And if those two don't line up, it's a losing battle. And I'll give you one example. We went out to a job, and I think I was in Michigan, and I was working with a young maintenance tech, right? And so we do a couple calls, and we get to one. I say, hey, I'll go ahead and run this one. And so we get there, and it's fully we're scripted and a process from start to finish, from when the CSR answers the phone to you close the call to you ask for a review. Everything, it's all there's a process for everything. But we get there, and I introduce us, and I say, hey, what brings us out here today? And they're like, yeah, you're here for your maintenance, and yeah, can we come in? And we come in, and the lady's phone rings, and she's like, just a minute. And she answers the phone and she says, hey, can I call you right back? The filter guys are here.
It's awesome.
How much value do you think in that customer's eyes she had in us being filters changers?
Yeah,
An
you're the guy.
can change a filter.
Exactly.
So
We get housekeepers to change filters,
we can get a housekeeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the value and the perceived value were way, way, way out of whack.
Yep.
And so we have to have dialogue and conversation to bring those two back into an alignment. And if you don't address it right then and there, or address it sometime, it's a losing proposition. And so maintenance has kind of been a jam. I've presented on how to have a profitable maintenance department. I work with a company in Minnesota, and their maintenance department is catching up to the service department in revenue by following a process with honesty, integrity, and common sense, and some training. Right. So that's kind of been something that's been kind of a little project of mine. And one of the other things I get to do is I'm a product ambassador for the new, Dust Free and Rector Seal. And of course, I have a product that's out. That's been a lot of fun. And then my own business is Dynamic Air Consulting. I work with clients all over the United States, mostly people who are compromised. And I work with contractors, bring them into the field. I bring my testing equipment, and we go in and we do forensics and test out. We develop a scope of work, and then we'll sit down and have that conversation with the client. They get to watch how this all happens. They get to use my tools in the field and understand what the data is telling them. I mean, we have to be data driven in everything we do. Yep. And then it's up to them to quote the job, because I don't know everybody's marketplace, and I've had great success in that. And so, yeah, there's the elevator version.
Yeah, no, you do a lot. It's a big ball of wax. The sales thing is super interesting to me because that's one of the biggest weaknesses we find, as far as like knowing your numbers and all that stuff like that. That's a whole rabbit hole for a lot of companies. On the IAQ side, when you do your trainings, what is it that you hope the contractors take away from the training? Like, what are you wanting them to take back to their shops when you do put on the IAQ training for the companies?
So every technician, every company is at a different place in their journey. Some people have no exposure to it. I think if you were to ask most HVAC companies out there what indoor air quality means to them, they're automatically going to associate that to a product. And we know what those products are. And it's automatically going to be this one, or it's going to be that one, or it's going to be the blue lights, right? And that's all they know about indoor air quality is these products. And so we need to be solutions driven and not product driven. And then the products will come later. And I also teach, our industry is so hyper focused on selling equipment. If again, here's another paradigm shift. If we go in and we focus on IAQ, you will be surprised how many of those types of jobs will lead to equipment changes, equipment sales.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But we don't start with that because we need to be in line, with what the customer's wants and needs are. And so to put this in context, when I had my company in California, where I really started to cut my teeth in indoor air quality, my customers came to me with a whole host of compromises. And so that would be cystic fibrosis. It would be COPD. I've had lung transplant recipients, debilitating asthma, Lyme's disease, valley fever, immune, oncology, right? All the way down to your garden variety seasonal allergies. And so those were my clients that came to me. And so this is real IAQ. The very decisions that I help these clients make, either the quality of life or their very life, depend on those decisions. So we go in, and I have a 3-step process that I use when I go into a home, kind of a lot like building science. And these principles can be applied across all spectrums.
Sure.
Yep. Investigate, analyze, and quote. IAQ. See what I did there?
So I love that. That's
the investigation is what we call discovery, right? Yep. So we have to do all three, got to do them in order. So investigate, gather data, analyze the data, and make decisions to quote that job based on data and not emotions. Within that 3-step process, I have a subset of categories that we put our attention on. That would be air safety and the ability with testing equipment and gathering data to see the unseen. What is in the air? What is in that environment that we can measure and put data to that can only be done with testing equipment because it is invisible to the eye? The second part would be the building safety, and that would be all our building science type of principles. Pressure mapping, moisture mapping, temperature mapping, infiltration, right? We look at thermal properties, we look at stratification, we look at stacking, we look at wind stack and mechanical effects. It's the whole house is a system approach. I've been using that for 20 years. And I've been doing, go ahead.
I was just going to say, tell us what you mean. I don't know if everybody knows what you mean by pressure mapping, temperature mapping, and the other thing you said. What do you mean by mapping? Explain that concept a little bit. People talk about it all the time, but I don't think it ever gets explained out loud, really.
Sure, and my terminology might be different because I'm old school. So
no, I think it's valid. I think it is what I think it is. I just want to hear you say it out loud.
So another name for pressure mapping would be zonal pressures, and this would be baselining. What is the building offering on its own? And then as we introduce mechanical, what is happening? And then when I say mechanical, meaning all available exhaust that's taking air from the space to atmosphere, then we introduce our mechanical, HVAC, and then we see the effects of that. And so then we go around and we can actually map pressure changes within the space that are driven by our mechanical. And what a lot of building science practitioners fail to do is being able to early on identify their neutral pressure plane and then the effect that has by introducing exhaust or even duct leakage will move our pressure plane. As we watch it move, if our neutral pressure plane because of duct leakage or exhaust moves up, well, then we are going to attack the top portion of that and look for interstitial communication and building leakage. If our pressure zonal neutral drops, then we're going to attack the lower section first, because that's going to be our biggest pain point, or infiltration rates. And this, like, if we've got an HVAC that's in an attic with duct leakage, and we've got, most of our exhaust happening upstairs, and that moves our pressure plane up, that's where our attention should go. If we've got an HVAC in a crawl space with prominent duct leakage and some other exhaust, and that moves it down, well, that's where our plan of attack goes first. And then we want to address it all, but we can get our biggest impact by identifying the neutral pressure plane, understanding what the effects of exhaust and duct leakage is on that plane, and then understanding that that's where our prominent shell leakage and where we can really make a difference. And so that would be pressure mapping. And then moisture mapping, as we look at the effects of mechanical, our humidity is going to move. And then we can understand some of the phenomena that's going on. And then we look at temperature mapping too. And so you hear a lot of contractors in the building science space as well talk about stack effect. Well, stack is great. I like to look at stratification, because stack happens with nothing running. When we have convection loops, as the temperature changes, molecules expand and contract, we have a stacking effect. But we get stratification once we introduce mechanical. And most of the time, that gets discounted. And we can follow humidity and temperature by looking at stratification. And then we also look at, like, the mean loads in the house, and that gets discounted as well. People don't understand what the mean load or impact is on a space as we're looking at stratification and tracking temperatures. So
Tell them what you mean by mean load. I don't think anybody's going to know what that. I mean, some people will, but.
Okay, so when we look at a house, so we have the house itself and its orientation. We have infiltration. We got fenestration. We got shade coefficients. We've got occupancy, right? And then we have the building structure on how it was built, our values with insulation. And all those things come into play while we're trying to build out a load calculation. And our infiltration number being one of the most important numbers. But I think that it gets discounted a lot, the mean load in a space, and it's more prominent during heating than it is during cooling. And so if we have a lot of hard surfaces, we've got granite countertops, we've got leather furniture rather than a material, right? So, and then we've got, a lot of hard surfaces. What happens is, if we don't design to take that into account to our design, as we're trying to heat that space, we often are running too high a fan speed. We satisfy the temperature of the air, are sensible, right? Thermostat satisfied, all those hard surfaces absorb the heat. Now the space itself for the occupants is uncomfortable. That's why radiant heating in a floor is so wonderful, because we actually address that mean load at the source. And so we need to look at that. And most houses with, like, carpeting and, nice drapery and different things. But if you've got hard window coverings, leather furniture, hardwood floors, or even marble floors, marble countertops, all those things, that is what we consider our mean temperature loads in a space. And it's mostly shows its ugly head during heating. It's like, wow, the thermostat kicks on, the heat runs for 5 minutes, it turns off, and in 3 minutes I'm cold. And that's what the mean.
So how do you address that? Like, how do you, as an HVAC contractor, account for that and make sure that you're taking care of the mean load? Like, what's the solution to figuring that out?
Well, in most softwares, there's a place for it. It's unnoticed because most contractors don't know to go there. And if you talk to Alex or you talk to Ed, they will tell you that there is a place for it. And they've talked about the mean load several times. But it's just,
it's a big topic. I mean, Allison Bells has written about it. I've actually mentioned it in something. I mean, it matters a lot. But for an HVAC contractor to be able to discern what that is and know what to do about it, it's a whole different thing.
Sure. And it has to do with surface area. So again, we have so much on our plate that we need to learn. And, if you're not doing load calcs, just start.
That's one place to start for sure.
That's one
Conduit
place to
tech,
start. And
Ampli,
then
quick model, whatever it is, right?
as your
Yep.
journey
Yep.
continues, I find it interesting. A lot of contractors will do a manual J and they'll do a block load, and then they'll go right to a manual D. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
How'd you do that? Was that magic? Yeah.
And then it's like, well, you probably should have. A block load's great just to get started. So
Equipment sizing, right? I mean, you can use a block load pretty confidently for equipment sizing.
Yeah, but then you need to do your manual S because you need to know what your extended fan performance data is going to be. And then you need to set your fan to your sensible heat ratio and not just your nominal 400 CFM per ton, and knowing where.
Or 0.7, right?
Right. And so there's a manual J, right? And then manual S for our equipment selection. Then we can go manual D. And then what else everybody leaves out? Manual T, because they don't understand our termination points will gobble up some of your static pressure budget in your duct design. And if you don't allow for it, you're going to be in trouble. Make sense?
To me, it does. I'm hoping it makes sense to everybody else. Nah, but your first point is very valid. Like, these guys need a starting place. Like, where do we start with all this? Like, how do we start doing it? And starting with a load calculation is going to give you a lot of information about the house if you do it right. If you're not using defaults, if you're walking through the house and you're doing the discovery that it takes to do a real load calculation, a lot of the things that you're there to combat will be exposed by doing that load calculation if they do it correctly, because they're going to have to look inside the house and have blower door numbers and things like that to really get a good, solid, precise load calculation in the software. So if they take the time to do the discovery, I mean, I think that it starts to expose a lot of issues that you're talking about. And as long as they know what to look for, they can start there.
Sure. And looking at your insulation, I mean, even so, in my career, I was a HERS rater in California. But I was also a QII HERS rater, which is quality insulation installation. So I would go behind insulation contractors and look at their work. And man, it's just as much of a train wreck as our industry is.
Oh, 100.
Even brand new, looking at the paper, it says R30, you automatically, it's devalued. Because if it's not installed properly, gaps and voids and different things, it's devalued right out of the gate. So you can't rely on just that. So understanding what that means when you're looking at our values. I had to fail so many contractors because they would do a pony wall adjacent to an attic with R19 because that's what's in all the other walls. I'm like, no. This wall is no different than the ceiling because behind it is your attic. And so that wall needs to be R30 just like your ceiling. And they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it. And I have to fail the job. And then they'd be mad.
I know. I've been a HERS rater for many years, and every other kind of rater too. And I can tell you right now that if somebody's not watching these guys when they're installing it, almost 100% of the time, you're going to have to tell them to redo something. Like, and we used to tell people it should look like your bed just got made. The blanket was pulled tight in the attic, and you tuck the sheets into all the corners, and you can just look across the top of it, and you can look at your attic rollers and see where it's supposed to go all the way across. If it doesn't look like that and it looks like this, like the bed didn't get made and somebody's laying under the covers, then you probably got problems and you need to fix it. I mean, that's one of the,
And the same thing goes with batting. If it's not touching all 5 surfaces, like, John, what do you mean 5 surfaces? Well, you got the 2 studs, you got both ends in the ceiling. That's 5. And that insulation needs to be in contact with all 5 of those surfaces to work properly. And so, and that can all be exposed with an infrared camera. Right? I mean, we do it all the time.
Blower door and infrared's one of the best diagnostic tools you can have. I mean, it's going to show, especially if you get a good enough temperature differential outside. Even if you don't, you can still see it with the blower door. But air, a lot of people don't realize air is moving at a different temperature than the rest of the building. So when we start moving air through a building, we look at it with an IR camera, we can see that pretty good. I've exposed a lot of problems in homes using that methodology.
Sure. And just convection loops within a home, within a home, within walls, within interstitial cavities. I mean, things are always moving. It took me a minute when I first started doing blower door testing, and I'd go in and I'd baseline a house, it's just me and my blower door and my anemometer. All the doors and windows are closed. Nothing is running. And I'm looking and I'm like, I am -4 pascals. It was a head scratcher. And I'm making phone calls like, how could this be? Convection loops, John, convection loops. As things warm up and start moving, right? Pressure difference in an opening.
Oh, yeah.
And the convection loop causes the pressure difference, and there's openings everywhere. And so that was one of the aha moments when I started doing.
I had it as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you just, I mean, and it's so, what's cool is now being able to watch guys have that same moment when you put the blower door on and you put an IR camera in their hand and they start realizing why they're feeling what they're feeling, or why things are moving like they're moving, or the problems are like, oh, you see it with your own eyes. And, it's the same way with homeowners too. Like, you let them experience that stuff for themselves. They have those moments. Then you really sold them on what you're doing because they feel like they had a hand in discovering the problem in their own home.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I like when the guys come out, it's like, I like them to hold the tools, use it, tactile,
Absolutely.
kinesthetic learning, and I had a contractor call me just yesterday from South Carolina, Spartanburg, and he had taken my class. I did it privately. They're running 45 guys. So I did half their company for 2 days, half their company for the other 2 days. He said, John, I took a couple technicians out with me, and I told one of my techs, I go, hey, go take that wall plate off the receptacle. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he took it off. He goes, what do you see in there? He goes, I see spider webs. He goes, those aren't spider webs, they're cobwebs. And the air was just rushing out of that receptacle plate. And they had a big pressure imbalance. It was an older home. And that was an aha moment. Things are always moving
I love it.
Yeah.
I think at the NCI conference, I was on one of the panels and they said, what's your most underrated tool? I said, my bald head is my most underrated tool. I've discovered more air leaks with my bald head than almost anything. I could put the blower door on and walk around the house and feel where the air's coming. I don't even need the IR camera half the time.
Sure. And then you just get a damp rag and now you got wet bulb. I'm not far behind you. Awesome. I'm not far behind you.
I'm pulling that joke out and making it a meme right there. I'm going to make that clip a meme. That's hilarious. My bald head is wet bulb. That's great.
I use this illustration. So I'm like dry bulb, wet bulb, and then I take a rag and wipe relative humidity, right? And then I take a glass of water, dew point.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. That's exactly right. That's hilarious. No, I love it. All right, we're running up on our time here. I'm going to ask you the one parting question I ask every guest. If the world ended today and they ask you to write one piece of advice on the wall for the industry, what are you leaving behind for the next generation?
If you don't test, it's just a guess.
Love it. If you're not testing, you're guessing.
Well, yeah, that's what NCIs, but I started saying that about the time they started. I joined NCI almost 18 years ago.
I know. I knew that.
I've been using their testing methodology for so long. It's just second nature.
Yep.
So if you don't test, it's just a guess. We have to make our decisions based on data. We got to be data driven.
Yeah.
Jeremy, that went by like that. We're going to have to do this again.
That was 45 minutes, I think. We talked a little longer than we do on most of them. So I love it, man. We'll have to do it again. And this episode probably won't come out till January-ish, just so you know, because we got a bunch of them in the bank already. So I'll let you know when we start promoting it. We'll send you clips and stuff like that for you to be able to promote it as well.
All right. If you want to get another one in the can, let me know.
I will do it. We'll do it. We'll figure out what we'll do. This was a good just talk about it. Let's pick a topic next time and then dig into some stuff if you want to.
Oh, absolutely. That's okay. Where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. I like these little feel-good ones, but my next season is going to be really digging into some of the weeds of the stuff. So I love it.
Fantastic.
All right. I'll talk to you later, man. Thank you very much. You have a great day.
My pleasure.